This story takes place a long time ago, over 600 years ago, in a country called France. At that time, France was in trouble. There was a long, terrible war between France and England. It was called the 100 Years' War. Many towns were burned, many people were hungry, and many were afraid. In a small village in eastern France lived a young girl named Joan. She came from a poor farming family. She did not go to school. She could not read or write. But Joan was kind. She worked hard, and she had a strong heart. When Joan was 13 years old, something strange happened. She said she began to hear voices, holy voices, voices of angels. The voices told her, "You must help the Prince of France. You must help save your country." Most people would be afraid, but not Joan. She believed the voices, and she believed in herself. At just 13 years old, Joan felt her life had a purpose, and that purpose was to save France. As Joan grew older, the voices became stronger. They came often. They gave her clear instructions. They said, "Go to the prince. Help him fight. You will lead the army. You will save France." Joan was now 16 years old. She was young, but she was brave. She decided to follow the voices. She went to a local leader. She said, "I need to see the prince. God has sent me." At first, they laughed at her. "She's just a girl," they said. "She's only a farmer's daughter." But Joan didn't give up. She kept asking. She kept believing. Finally, one commander said, "Let her try." He gave Joan a horse and some guards, and she traveled many days to reach the prince. When Joan met the prince, she looked him in the eye and said, "God sent me to help you. I will lead your army, and we will win." The prince was surprised, but something about Joan felt special. She spoke with passion, with confidence, with faith. So the prince said yes. He gave Joan armor, a sword, and an army. She was just 17 years old, and soon she would become one of the most famous leaders in French history. Joan put on armor, like a real soldier. She carried a flag and a sword. She rode a horse, and she led her soldiers with strength and faith. The army's first goal was to help the city of Orléans. The city was surrounded by English soldiers. People were starving. They were losing hope. Many thought Joan's army would fail. They said, "She's just a girl. What can she do?" But Joan was not afraid. She rode at the front of the army. She gave strong speeches. She prayed. She believed. Her courage gave the soldiers hope. And then a miracle happened. In just 9 days, Joan's army won the battle. The English soldiers ran away, and the people of Orléans were saved. The news spread fast. A teenage girl saved the city. The French soldiers started to believe. The people started to believe. They called her the Maid of Orléans. She was now a symbol of faith, hope, and victory. But Joan's mission was not finished yet. She had one more goal: to help the prince become king. After the victory in Orléans, Joan became famous across France. People said, "She is sent by God. She is our hero." But Joan had one more mission. She wanted the prince to be crowned king. In those days, to become king, a prince had to be crowned in a special city called Reims. But there was a problem. Reims was far away, and the road was full of enemy soldiers. Many people told Joan, "It's too dangerous. You can't go." But Joan said, "We must try. This is God's plan." So, once again, Joan rode with the army. They passed through town after town, and the people cheered for her. The English soldiers didn't stop them, and finally they reached Reims. In the great cathedral, the prince was crowned King Charles VII. Joan stood beside him. Her eyes were full of tears. She had done what the voices asked. She had helped save France. But Joan's story was not over. A dark chapter was still to come. After the king's coronation, Joan wanted to keep fighting. She wanted to free all of France from English control. But something had changed. The king had power now. He didn't listen to Joan as much. He didn't give her the same support. Still, Joan continued. She led more battles. She tried to protect towns and people. Then one day, in the city of Compiègne, Joan was surrounded by enemy soldiers. She tried to escape, but they caught her. These soldiers were not English. They were Burgundians, French allies of the English. They took Joan as a prisoner, and soon they sold her to the English. Joan was now 18 years old. She had no army, no support, and the king she helped did nothing to save her. She was taken to the city of Rouen. There she would face her greatest battle, but this time not with a sword, with her words. Joan was now a prisoner of the English. They wanted to punish her, but not for fighting. They wanted to hurt her reputation. So they put her on trial, a long, unfair trial. They called her a heretic, someone who goes against the church. They said she was lying about the voices. They said she was evil. They even said, wearing men's clothes is a crime. Joan stood alone. There were no friends, no lawyers, no one to protect her. But Joan was still strong. She said, "The voices came from God. I followed what I believed was right." The trial lasted for months. The judges asked hard questions. They tried to trick her. But Joan answered clearly and bravely. Even her enemies were surprised by her words. Still, the judges made their decision. They found her guilty, and they said she must be executed. Joan was just 19 years old. It was May 30th, 1431. The morning was cold and quiet. Joan was led to a public square in the city of Rouen. She was tied to a wooden pole. A large fire was built beneath her. Many people came to watch. Joan was calm. She looked up at the sky. She called out, "My voices did not lie. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus." And then the fire was lit. Joan of Arc was burned at the stake. She was just 19 years old. People cried. Even some of her enemies felt shame. They knew she was not a witch. She was not evil. She was brave. Years later, the church said the trial was wrong. They cleared her name. In 1920, Joan was made a saint by the Catholic Church. Today, she is a symbol of courage, faith, and standing up for what is right. Her story is told in books, in schools, in movies, all around the world. She was a poor girl with no power, but she believed, she spoke up, and she changed history. That was the story of Joan of Arc, the girl who defied an empire.
Wow, what a powerful story. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. And big thanks to Jake for telling it so clearly. Now let's talk about how you can use this story to improve your English. First, you can listen again to practice your listening skills. Pause and repeat any part you didn't understand. Write down new words and phrases you heard. Try to retell the story in your own words, even just one part. This is how real stories can help you learn real English. Now it's time for a quick quiz. Let's see how much you remember from the story of Joan of Arc. I'll ask you 5 questions. You can say your answer out loud, or pause and think before you continue. Are you ready? Let's begin.
Question 1. How old was Joan when she first said she heard voices? A. 10. B. 13. C. 16. D. 18. The answer is B. 13. Question 2. What country was Joan trying to save? A. England. B. Spain. C. France. D. Italy. The answer is C. France. Question 3. What did the voices tell Joan to do? A. Leave her village and hide. B. Go to school. C. Help the French prince and fight. D. Travel to England. The answer is C. Help the French prince and fight. Question 4. How did Joan die? A. In battle. B. In prison. C. She ran away and disappeared. D. She was burned at the stake. The answer is D. She was burned at the stake. Question 5. How old was Joan when she died? A. 21. B. 25. C. 19. D. 17. The answer is C. 19. Great job! If you got 3 or more correct, you're doing amazing. If not, don't worry. You can always listen again and learn more each time.
All right, my friend. Let's take a few moments to go over some of the most important and useful vocabulary and phrases from today's story. These are expressions you can actually use in real-life conversations. I'll say each one slowly, explain it in a simple and easy-to-remember way, and give you a short example to help you really understand it. Feel free to pause and repeat after me if you'd like to practice. Ready? Let's start with the 10 key vocabulary words, and then we'll move on to the 10 key phrases. Let's dive in.
1. Empire. So, an empire is like a big group of countries ruled by one powerful leader, kind of like a super country. In our story, the English Empire was fighting to control parts of France. 2. Peasant. A peasant is someone who's really poor and works on a farm. Back in Joan's time, most people were peasants. No money, no school, just hard work every day. Joan? She was one of them. 3. Vision. A vision is like a dream you see when you're awake. Joan said she saw visions of angels telling her what to do. Not everyone believed her, but she believed in herself. 4. Crowned. This one's easy. To be crowned means to officially become king or queen. And guess what? Joan helped the prince get crowned. That's a big deal. 5. Heresy. Okay, this word sounds heavy. Heresy means believing or saying something that goes against church rules. Joan was put on trial for heresy because she said God was speaking to her. 6. Betray. To betray someone means to break their trust or give them to the enemy. That's exactly what happened to Joan. She was betrayed by people who were supposed to protect her. 7. Saint. A saint is someone the church says lived a very holy and good life. Years later, the church said, "Oops, Joan was innocent," and they made her a saint. Trial. All right, a trial is like a big, serious meeting in court. It's where people decide if someone is guilty or innocent. In Joan's case, she had a trial because people said she was a heretic. But honestly, it wasn't fair at all. They already made up their minds before it even started. Courage. Now this is one of my favorite words. Courage means being brave even when you're scared. Joan had huge courage. She stood in front of armies, judges, and even death, and she didn't run away. She believed in her mission and never backed down. Divine. This one's a little deeper. Divine means something that comes from God or from a higher power. So when Joan said her voices were divine, she meant they came from heaven, and she trusted them with all her heart. And there you go. That's 10 strong vocabulary words from today's story. Now let's switch it up a bit. Words are great, but phrases? Phrases are what make your English sound natural, real, and alive. So in this next part, I'll walk you through 10 super useful phrases. These are expressions you can actually use when speaking, just like native speakers do. They come straight from Joan's story, but trust me, you can use them in everyday life too. All right, ready for phrase number 1? Let's do this. 1. Stand up for what you believe. This means to speak out or take action for what you think is right, even when it's hard. Joan stood up for her beliefs, even when people laughed, doubted her, or wanted her gone. And guess what? That's real strength. 2. Never give up. You've probably heard this one before, but it's always worth repeating. To never give up means to keep trying, no matter how tough things get. Joan didn't stop. Not when they doubted her, not when they captured her. That's next-level determination. 3. Risk one's life. This means doing something dangerous, where you could actually die for a cause or person. Joan risked her life every time she rode into battle. She knew the danger. She went anyway. 4. Make a difference. To make a difference means to help change something for the better. Even if you're just one person, like Joan, you can still change the world around you, and that's powerful. 5. Find your way. This can mean figuring out where you're going, in life or in a real place. Joan found her way by listening to her inner voice and walking her own path. We're all finding our way, aren't we? 6. Follow your heart. This means doing what you truly feel is right, even if it doesn't make sense to others. Joan followed her heart, not what people told her she should do, and that's what gave her purpose. 7. A voice for the voiceless. This phrase means to speak up for people who can't speak for themselves. Joan gave hope to the poor, the scared, and the forgotten. She became their voice, and that's beautiful. 8. Keep going. Short and simple, but so powerful. It means don't stop, just keep moving forward. Even when Joan was tired, even when she was alone, she kept going. 9. Light at the end of the tunnel. This is a metaphor for hope after a hard time. France was in darkness during the war, but Joan became the light at the end of the tunnel. Things finally started to change. 10. Go the extra mile. This means to do more than what's expected, to give your full effort. Joan didn't just do what she was asked, she gave her heart, soul, and strength. She truly went the extra mile.
We've just learned 10 powerful phrases you can use to talk about life, challenges, or even to lift someone up when they need it. Now, here's your little mission. Pick one of those phrases or vocabulary words from today and try it out. Use it in a sentence. Say it out loud. Write it down in your notebook. Make it yours. Because that's how we grow, one phrase at a time. Seriously, amazing job today. You listened to a real, powerful story. You picked up some new words, and more importantly, you learned how to use them. And remember, learning English doesn't have to feel like homework. Stories like Joan of Arc's remind us that we can learn a language and feel inspired at the same time. Now, before you go, just a quick favor. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a new story. And hey, I'd love to hear from you. Who inspires you? Leave a comment and tell us about someone who gives you courage, just like Joan. This is Emma from English Phrases Hub. Keep learning, keep going, and always follow your heart. See you in the next episode.